The Lions are at plus 175 right now, and their win total is 10.5 according to the sports book I'm looking at right now. Lions 10.5. Dylan, no Ben Johnson.
No Ben Johnson.
A lot of offensive line pieces moving around.
A lot of offensive line pieces moving around.
How do we feel about the Lions?
How do we feel about the Lions? You lose offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, like you said. Huge blow. I want to pose the question, before we really get into it, how much do we really think that matters for the Lions? You still have Campbell that's like, he's a special kind of mind there. He's a beautiful mind, very aggressive offensive mind. Do we think losing Ben Johnson matters that much to this Lions offense when you still have Campbell at the helm, Connor?
I would say I don't think it can be understated. I don't think we can write it off as a non-factor. I think Ben Johnson did a lot for this offense. Now, do I think John Morton's going to come in and reinvent the wheel? No. I think it's going to be much of the same that we saw last year under Dan Campbell. But I don't want to go into the season and say, Ben Johnson's gone. Everything's fine. It's going to be all roses and dandelions. I do think it needs to be at least accounted for somewhat. Now, I don't know what the percentage breakdown is between success based on Jared Goff versus success based on Ben Johnson. What's that kind of, is it a 50-50 split? Were they just the perfect match? I'm not sure. I do think it's a point worth bringing up, though, because I do think that's a big loss.
The perception is going to be interesting as the season goes, because I do think the Lions are going to take a step back. I don't think it's going to be a major step back. I think they're still a playoff team, but this offensive line is not going to be as good as it was last year either, and I'm very curious to see what NFL fans attribute maybe a lack of offensive success to. The loss of Ben Johnson or the lack of offensive line. Because you look at the offensive line here, you get a couple key pieces back, but you have Ratledge, who was I think it was their there was a second draft pick, filling in at right guard. Glasgow at center's not very highly rated. The offensive line is definitely down for what we're used to seeing from the Detroit Lions.
Right.
Who's going to get the blame offensively? I think that's going to be a very good question, because I do think they're going to take a step back. Worth noting, Jared Goff had his lowest drop rate in his career last year, 1.3% in 2024. His next lowest was 3.7% in 2018, and then his next lowest after that was 5.4% in 2021. Clearly an outlier. At some point, you have to account for drops, and 1.3% is astonishingly low. So I think we see some regression there. The defense is still going to be solid. You get Aiden Hutchinson back. This is a defense that loves to blitz. They have a really high hurry rate. They re-signed Kirby Joseph. I don't want to say I'm out on the Lions. I don't think out is the right word. But I do think they take a step back from what we saw last year. And given that they lost to the Commanders in the playoffs as soon as they did, I don't know what that means for Super Bowl aspirations. Carter, the loss of Ben Johnson, what do we think? Does it matter that much?
No, I don't. I actually don't think so. I think it's a little overrated, because you look at if we think Dan Campbell's a great coach, I think people have that perception of he's this dumb meathead guy or whatever because he's such a rah-rah guy. But if the elite coaches don't drop off when they lose coordinators, look at McVay, look at Andy Reid, look at Belichick losing coordinators over the years, never stopped.
Shanahan usually.
Look at those guys. It didn't really matter. Now, a lot of those guys probably called their own plays on offense, Andy Reid specifically. So I don't think so. I'm not as worried about that. I'm more worried about the offensive line pieces. Jared Goff is going to be under pressure more. We know how we feel about Jared Goff when he's under pressure more. And also the reason I think they take a step back, I still think they're a Super Bowl contender or anything. Like, I don't think they're all of a sudden going to be a 500 team or anything. But last year we're doing this preview and we go, oh my gosh, this is the easiest schedule of all time. This team is going to win a minimum of 13 games. Even if they stink, they're going to win 13 games. You look at the schedule this year and the way they start. Their first 10 games, I mean, it's brutal. You go at Packers, home Bears, at Ravens. The Browns is your only easy game to start. Then it's at Bengals, at Chiefs, home Buccaneers, home Vikings, at Commanders, at Eagles. That is a brutal 10-game stretch to start the season. That's why I think they drop off a little bit, but I still think they're a playoff team and are going to compete for this division.
Real quick, the via Sharp Sports, Warren Sharp's website, third toughest strength of schedule for the Detroit Lions based on Vegas win totals. And I want to highlight that week 3 through 6, 3 through 7 stretch. Absolutely brutal with playing a couple Monday nights. Got Cincinnati and Kansas City back-to-back away is going to be difficult. Great point about the schedule because I think you're exactly right.
According to ESPN, which is what I use for strength of schedule, they based it on last year's record, and the Lions have the second hardest schedule based on last year's records. They have 11 games versus playoff teams from a year ago. 11 games versus playoff teams from last year. And that's tough.
Can I offer a caveat there?
Yes.
The NFC South was very strong. Didn't they have 3 playoff teams make it? Did the Packers make it?
The
NFC North,
NFC South?
NFC North.
I was going to say,
I'm talking
we can
about.
go ahead and get into it.
The NFC North was very strong. So,
I think the NFC South made the CFL playoffs. I think they were competing for a great
UFL.
General Booty. Yeah, the schedule point I think is a huge piece, and you guys touched on the O-line. I won't get too much into it. Frank Ragnow abruptly retired after the draft. I think that's a big deal, and there's arguably, I didn't dive into it too much, but this is arguably the worst O-line group that Dan Campbell's had since, his first year in Detroit, I would say. And they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not that elite, consistent, same 5 guys are back that are going to dominate this year. That does give me a little pause. I think it might take a little bit of time for them to get into a rhythm. With Ben Johnson gone, with a new OC, new defensive coordinator as well, and Kelvin Shepard replacing Aaron Glenn, they're the 4th team since the year 2000 to lose both coordinators to head coaching jobs in the same offseason. So it's not often that happens. I just wonder how much of the success was Ben Johnson. I think Jared Goff is under some pressure this year, not necessarily for his job, but just to get over the hump. They ended the year last year in that 45-31 loss to Washington. He had 4 turnovers in that playoff loss. That leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So I do wonder with the tough start to the schedule how Jared Goff starts off this year.
I will also say that glass half full on the Lions side, they were extremely injured on defense last year.
Yep. They were.
And now coming into the season a lot more healthy. I mean, that should bode well for them. If they're not having to play in shootouts, because what was it, the last 6-7 games of their season, they were basically having to score 30-plus points a game at the minimum to win games. And they were doing it with a better defense. I think that's going to take a lot of stress off Jared Goff. The issue is, like I said, you're playing against all the best teams in the NFL to start the season, it feels like.
Yeah, and I made the Goff 4 turnover point. When you're trailing like that, when you let the other team score 45 points, you have to kind of take risks and take shots down the field. So
yeah, but the Goff thing is he has just those inexcusable passes where you go, what was he seeing there? Jared Goff has it almost more than any other especially any other good quarterback in the NFL, where you go, what was that? What kind of throw was that? And it was more apparent. It was so apparent in that Commanders game. You're like, it was almost like Will Howard against Michigan. It's like, is he concussed?
I will say the one thing I'm not worried about on the offensive side of the ball is the skill position. I think Amon-Ra is going to be another safety blanket great year. Jamison Williams is going to take a giant leap forward, I think.
Yep.
Jahmyr Gibbs is going to take a giant leap forward, I think, and he'll be more involved this year. It's more so the play calling and Jared Goff is what it comes down to. Can you get these playmakers the ball in space, have the same schemes, the same, double dipsy-do reverse to Penei Sewell that Ben Johnson brought out? That was a lot of their identity, was the play calling. So I am curious to see how that comes about this year. On the defensive side, Aiden Hutchinson, is he back to 100% already? Maybe, but it might take a few games. And then there's just a little bit of a lack of depth on both sides of the line, offensive line and defensive line. That just gives me a little pause with the coordinator turnover. I think this is still a playoff team, but I think we're looking at more of a 10-7, probably 11-6, as opposed to 15-2 last year. I think they take a little step back in the regular season.
Vegas nailed the total. Because I looked at it. I didn't look at the schedule first. I went to win totals before doing my prep before anything, and I see 10.5, and I go, oh my gosh, the Lions are only 10.5. You look at some of these other teams that are 11.5, you're like, the Lions are as good as they are. Then you go to the schedule and you go, oh yeah, that makes total sense. So 10.5, over under, Dylan.
Super easy. Tough schedule. I think they take a step back. I'm going under on the Lions.
Like 10-7 under, or like 9-8?
9-8.
Oh,
see, that shocks me. Just looking at the Lions, how talented they are, 15-2 last year, to jump all the way back to 9-8. So you said strictly a schedule play.
Yeah. Well, schedule play also. I do think losing Ben Johnson accounts for something. I don't think it's as big as what people are making it out to be. And again, I'm an offensive line guy. It's just not going to be as good as last year. So I'm Yeah, I'm thinking step back. I'm thinking Jared Goff regression. Keep in mind our perception of Jared Goff, and I've kind of been a Jared Goff truther. A lot of our Jared Goff thoughts come from like 5 touchdown games at the beginning of the season, and we kind of, I know you brought it up, Carter. We kind of forget the indoors. We kind of forget the bad games. The 1.3% drop rate is jarring to me, and I don't think that keeps up. And I understand he has great receivers, but I don't think that keeps up. I think we see some regression here.
We had a lot of outdoor games in that.
I'm changing
stretch.
it 10-7, 10-7.
Yeah, I think I'm 10-7, 11-6 as well. I'm indifferent about that win total.
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right. I love it.